Hey there, nation, and welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander Cheapskate, and we're back with something extremely different than what I usually do. And if you're looking at this video and you're one of my viewers, you might be thinking, Commander Cheapskate, what the heck is going on? Are you actually making a Cyberpunk 2077 character build video? And the answer is yes, I am. And you might be wondering, why the heck are you doing this? Well, the reason why is because I've actually been a huge Cyberpunk fan since 1990s, actually. I was a huge fan since when the role-playing game actually came out in back in the mid-90s for Cyberpunk 2020. That role-playing game was a paper and pencil tabletop role-playing game. At the time, I was hanging out with these brothers that I just absolutely loved. I actually adored them. They were like my role models, and they got me into Warhammer, they got me into miniatures wargaming, and they got me into the wonderful world of fantasy and science fiction and geeking out together. And one of the role-playing games that they actually played was Cyberpunk 2020. And the older kid, who was the older brother, wanted to know if I wanted to play. This was actually the very first role-playing game I actually played, and from there I just got hooked on the geekdom ever since then. And that was actually my first introduction into role-playing games as well. So because I've been a huge fan of that and the whole storyline of Cyberpunk, especially from the tabletop setting. And then when I heard that the game was being announced almost 10 years ago now, I was really looking forward to that as well, especially since they realized they were bringing the character Johnny Silverhand and that storyline into the game. So I did kind of know what was going on in terms of the story because I was familiar with the role-playing game in that setting, but I was really psyched for the game. Now, of course, people were really upset about the game, and there's people who go back and forth. It's one of the most polarizing games of all time, but I absolutely love the game, even with all of its bugs. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Fallout New Vegas. Fallout New Vegas was a game that had a lot of bugs in it as well, but it's still beloved by fans because the story as well as the characters was what made that game amazing. And so, same thing with this video game as well. So on today's episode, we're actually going to be doing a little bit of a different one. We're going to be actually doing a character build on the character of David Martinez, who was the main character from the Edgerunner anime series that was on Netflix. And so because that, we're going to talk about exactly what I think should go into making that character build, so if you want to play that character in your own game, in your own playthrough of Cyberpunk 2077, let's go ahead and talk about how that gets done. So right off the bat, let's go ahead and talk about exactly what you can build, expect in this character build. First of all, I'm going to talk about the character starting attributes as well as how you can make your character look like the character from the anime series. At the same time, I'll talk about your character starting attributes, what their build should be like during Act 1, 2, and 3, and then finally go over perks as well as cyberware for your character build. Now you might be wondering, Commander Cheapskate, are you going to show any gameplay footage on this video? And the answer is no. And the reason why is because I am a console playing peasant. I don't have a gaming PC and I don't have access to mods and stuff. So because of that, if I want to build a character, I literally have to start from scratch and play all the way to level 50 and build that character up the long way, and that's going to take forever today to do that because I have a PS4 and that's what I play on. So yeah, I'm playing this game on a PlayStation 4 with everything going on, so that tells you exactly why I won't be putting gameplay footage of that on my series. But with that being said, this is a little bit of a deeper dive video. I will have timestamps down below in the description box, as well as two very important links. One of the links, of course, is to another YouTuber on YouTube. Her name is Callie Gaming. She does amazing videos about character builds, about exactly how to make your character look like other characters in Cyberpunk from other things like movies and television shows. And she does an amazing job. She even has some even original builds as well. I highly suggest you check out her channel. And she just recently did a video on the David Martinez character, and I'll be down in the description box below. And the other link will actually be to a group called Nukes and Dragons, which is a free app online that you could actually use to build your characters for Cyberpunk 2077, and that link will be down below as well. So that being said, let's get this build video on a roll. So first off, if you want to roleplay as David Martinez from Edgerunners, I highly suggest you check out this channel, Callie Gaming. The link is down in the description below. She actually has a beautifully done video on exactly how to make your character look like David Martinez for your V in your games of Cyberpunk. And we could just pretend that maybe David survived and made it to adulthood, and maybe he had some cosmetic changes done because he got shot in the face by Adam Smasher. So if you want to see a really cool look, make your character look like the character from Edgerunners, check out Callie Gaming down below. You can find her link in the description box to this video. It's really excellent done. So that being said, let's talk about how your characters can be developed over Act 1. Alright, so first of all, for your starting attributes for the David Martinez build, you're going to put 6 in body, 6 in reflexes, 4 in technical ability, 3 in intelligence, and 3 in cool. Body, reflexes, and technical ability will be the primary focus of this build as you level up over time. We're not going to put any more points into intelligence right off the bat. Now, you might know what you might be thinking, well, Commander Cheapskate, the character of David Martinez, is described as being very intelligent and talented in the anime, and that is true, but unfortunately, the only thing we get from intelligence is quick hacking, and David Martinez doesn't do any of that. So instead, we'll be putting that attributes into technical ability instead. We're going more of the talented aspect of David Martinez's build during his technical ability. And lastly, of course, we'll also have a couple of points that we'll throw in for cool as well. Alright, so for the Act 1 build, first of all, you're going to concentrate on cool, oddly enough. And the reason why is because your reflexes, your technical ability, as well as your body stat are actually going to be good just the way they are for right now. They're pretty high to begin with, so you're going to focus on cool and level up to level 9 first of all, so that way you get access to defensive clotting. Defensive clotting perks could really help your character survive and be a little bit more survivable. It also help a little bit out with stealth at first, because even though David Martinez is primarily a brawler build type where you'll be running around punching people, you're not going to be doing that very easily in the very first part of the game because you're just starting off at level 1. Now, of course, you'll level up your skills, however, in body and reflexes by using a variety of weapons to do that. So that way you get those additional perk points, you get those additional bonuses for those skills involving with those attributes. Use a variety of weapons to do so as well. And then finally, once you get your level up to level 9 for cool, lastly put 1 point in tech, a couple points in tech to level to level 6 as well. That way you can also craft rare items. It also gives you some boost to your engineering skills as well. And by leveling up those skills in tech through crafting and blowing people with grenades, it's going to really help you unlock more perk points as well as more enhancements like crafting specs, etc. And then probably the biggest focus when it comes to cyberware, especially for this character, you're going to want to purchase the uncommon variant of the Dynalanar Sandivistan for 7,500 credit eddies from Cassius Rider in the north side portion of Watson. The reason why is because Cassius Rider is a ripper duck in the north side area. The Dynalanar Sandivistan is going to be really helpful out for you, especially when you first start out, just because you're not going to be having access to a lot of high-tech stuff as the game goes on. As you level up and progress through the game, I highly suggest you just purchase higher levels of the Dynalanar Sandivistan until you get enough credits and street creds in order to get the penultimate Sandivistan for this character. But we'll talk about that a little bit more when we actually get to the end game build in terms of attributes, skill, perks, as well as for your cyberware. And then, of course, by the end of Act 1, this is what your stats should look like for your attributes. By the end of Act 1, you should have 6 in body, 6 in reflexes, 6 in technical ability, 3 in intelligence, as well as 9 in cool. So like I said, we're not going to be focusing too much on intelligence for this build because it primarily deals in quick hacking. We'll primarily focus on body, reflexes, and tech, and that will be reflected especially when we talk about what happens for your character over the course of Act 2. Alright, so over the course of Act 2, you're going to level up alternating between your 3 major attributes for your character. That's going to be body, reflexes, and tech. So you're going to level up attribute one at a time as you progress. So you'll spend one attribute point in body, another one reflexes, another one in tech, and then you'll go back to body, reflexes, and tech, and so on and so forth until eventually you get them up to the levels that you need to. By this point, you should end Act 2 at level 18 for your body, reflexes, as well as your technical abilities. And the reason why is because of the associated perks and skills that we're going to need from those 3 attributes to make your character extremely powerful. Now, of course, as you level up your skills and these attributes to increase the number of buffs that they give you, as well as giving you more perk points to allot to your guys' perks. Now, perhaps the biggest challenge in this one is not punching fingers in the face when helping Judy's quest line. And the reason why that is the case is because for you to get a couple of the cyberware that you need in order to make this character as powerful as it needs to be, you're going to have to purchase several cyberware from Fingers, which is a ripper dock in Japantown. And if anyone's ever played that quest line knows exactly what I'm talking about, the character is a complete scumbag. And so because that, you're kind of tempted to punch the guy. I highly suggest you don't do that. And in that case, my suggestion is that you make this quest line, the Judy Alvarez quest line, you make that the last series of side quests that you do during Act 2, so that way you can level up enough of your street cred, get enough of your guys' stats for your attributes, as well as enough eddies or money to purchase the Chiant Sandivistan Mark IV, as well as the epic level Kata Resist for your character. Now, once of course you get those, and you get those ahead of time, then do the Judy quest line and do where you want to Fingers, whether punching in the face or just straight up murdering him. It's up to you what you want to do for that build. So by the time you get done with Act 2, your attributes should be put at the following. You should have an 18 in body, 18 reflex, 18 technical ability, 3 intelligence, as well as 9 in cool. And that's what your character should be by the end of Act number 2, so that way you get all these different things that you need for your character as well. Which brings us directly to what your character's end build will look like for Act 3. Alright, so lastly, the last few levels for your act, you're going to level up your body up to level 12, so that way, 20, so that way you have your maximum amount for your body stat, and the last bit, of course, will go directly to cool, which will bring you up to level 12 at that point. And by this point, you should be a borged out killing machine running around on the edge of cyberpsychosis and ready to finish off the game at this point. And the reason why we're not giving you a lot of information about the cyberware attributes as well as perks at this point is because for this next part of the video, we're actually going to go to my desktop computer. I'm going to go to the Nukes and Dragons website and actually show you using their character builder calculator to show you exactly what kind of perks, what kind of cyberware, what kind of attributes you should have for your character. So with that being said, let's get that portion of the video going. Alright, so here we are on my desktop computer. As you can see, I got this really cool looking Cyberpunk wallpaper. Looks like female V with the background with the knight sitting in the background. Very cool looking. I really like the fact they got the origami unicorn as a nod to Blade Runner as an Easter egg there. So what we're going to do real quick is pull up this website here. This website is called Nukes and Dragons. And this is a really cool website because it gives you character builders for Cyberpunk 2077. It's a very well built character builder. And the nice thing about it, you can actually save your builds as you go on. All you got do is just copy the link up here in the top. You can copy and paste it. In fact, you can find this link in the description box down below, so that way if you want to take a look at this build a little bit more in detail, you can do so. You can even name your build. You could also adjust the levels for your attributes as well as the skill levels in those attributes as well. You can pick out your perks as well as your cyberware. So I highly recommend you check out this website. Give them a lot of support because it's actually really cool, and the fact that this is actually available for free is even better in my opinion. So let's go ahead and talk about the Nukes and Dragons Cyberpunk 2077 character builder and planner and calculator for the David Martinez build. So as you can see here, got the name David Martinez. So this is the stats you're actually going to have by the time you get done. So ideally, this is what it's going to look like. Now, you've noticed it gives you a level right here in the middle. Now, if you notice, there's 10 additional perk points added on top of this, and the reason why is because those 10 perk points are from the perk shards that you can find throughout the Cyberpunk game. So that's why I put those 10 additional perk points, because to represent the fact that you're finding those. So in the end, you'll end up with 125 perks. Also is level 50, and when it comes to your stats, you're going to actually maximize David Martinez's stat with 20 body. You give him 18 reflexes. Now, the reason why we're building up reflexes up to 18 is not necessarily for the assault or handguns or blade perk trees. The reason why we're doing this is that way you can access the higher level and high-end reflex Sandefistan units as well as Krenzikov reflex boosters that his character is known for. In fact, that is the key part that made the David Martinez character so important for his gang, because of the fact he had that higher level Sandefistan, which is the military grade one. At the same time, we're going with the level 18 technical ability, and we're not putting any points in intelligence. Now, I know in the anime of Edgerunners, they talk about how David is very gifted and very talented. Unfortunately, he doesn't really use hacking all that much in that series, so because of that, there's no reason to put any points in Breach Protocol or quick hacking. So that's the reason why the intelligence level is at a level 3. Now, at level 3, we're assuming that that's just like kind of like common knowledge and the normal intelligence that most people have. So we're going to roleplay the fact that he may not necessarily be a hacker intelligent, but he's very skilled and he's very talented. We're going to reflect that in the technical ability, especially when we get to the engineering as well as the crafting trees, because you're going to definitely need those for this build. And that's really going to help out your character, not only in that, but as well as keeping a little bit more survivable with the cyberware that they can actually use as well. And then finally, we're going to give David a level 12 in cool, so that way he has access to ninjutsu as well as cold-blooded trees, and we'll talk about exactly what those perks look like here in a second. So this is the overall build that we have for the end level stats for David Martinez. He's going to have these stats for his attributes. He's going to have these many perk points, and then what we're going to do now is stop this segment and then talk about exactly what perks he should have for his character. Alright, so now that we're done talking about David Martinez's attributes, let's talk about specifically what perks you'll start off with. And so this is another cool thing about the perk trees for this. You can actually click on them and actually take a look at the individual perks, and actually breaks it down for you on this website too, which is fantastic. So first of all, let's talk about athletics first. Okay, so we are putting 20 points in David Martinez's body tree. So because we're going to be using a lot of the body perks in order to help them out, specifically athletics and street brawlers primarily we'll be focusing on. So let's go and talk about why we picked the perks that we did. So first of all, starting off with athletics, we're picking up Pack Mule for the additional 60 pounds in carrying capacity, as well as the additional buff in order to regenerate your health slowly during combat. This is going to be very important for David Martinez because, one, we're going to use the loot ability in order to loot parts as well as crafting specs from our enemies. At the same time, we'll be selling any weapons we don't need in order to make a lot of money for David to actually build up the wealth that he actually accumulates over the course of the Edgerunner series. And obviously, health regeneration is going to be very important because David is known for being kind of like unstoppable, and he's got a really good reputation for being like this unbeatable, unkillable character, and so that's really going to help him out with that. So from there, we're just going to branch off to our either side of the branching tree. We're going to go with endomorphosis and max that out, so that way we increase his health regeneration threshold from 75 to 75% in combat and 100% out of combat, so that way he can regenerate that health really quickly. He can do a lot of things. Plus, when we actually get to the street brawler ability, his ability to actually regenerate health even faster, but the kills that he gets is going to be very important for that. At the same time, we're also maxing out True Grit up to level 30% for his stamina, so that way he can actually throw more punches because he is very much a brawler build, and that takes us down to Wolverine as well. We're going to max out that characteristic because health regeneration activates 60% faster during combat, so that's really going to help him out, especially in the starting levels of Act 1 all the way to the beginning of Act 2. Which brings us to the other section over here as well. So we're going to max out Gladiator as well. This reduces the amount of stamina consumed when blocking melee attacks by 40%. The reason why we have this is because David does do a lot of close combat, and he will be doing a lot of brawling, and of course when he gets in close quarters with his opponents are going to either try to pistol whip him or strike him with their rifle butts, or just straight up hit him with their melee weapons, in which case he can then block that and at the same time reduce the amount of stamina he actually has from blocking his attacks. Steel and Chrome is going to be maxed out to 20% by 2 levels as well, so that way we increase his melee output damage by 20% because he'll be doing a lot of punching as well. From there we go to a divided attention with only low level there, which allows you to reload weapons while sliding, sprinting, vaulting. That's important because he's going to be using shotguns primarily as his weapon, a ranged weapon, because that's what he uses in the anime, and plus in the anime we see him actually doing this as he's running around reloading his stuff and actually opening fire on things. Now from there we'll go with the next important perk, which is Tenacious V, which is level 1. Getting hit does not interrupt your health regeneration, so that's really going to be helpful in order to make sure that he gets those maximum health regens to make him unstoppable as he is in close combat. Same thing with increasing his health by max by 15% with the Invincible perk as well. On the other side of the tree, we'll go with Like a Butterfly for 1 perk point. Dodging does not drain stamina. He's going to be doing a lot of dodging as he's trying to, avoid being shot at, as well as having grenades thrown at him as such. At the same time, we are using the Krinzikov on his character as well, so he can actually activate that slow time dilation, and that will not drain his stamina, so that way if he dodges and activates it, he can then go about and continue on with his combat. Same thing with Multitasker, allows you to shoot while sprinting, vaulting, and sliding. Very important because we see him actually do this with his combat shotguns. And then we have Transporter. The reason why we have Transporter is because it allows you to shoot pistols or revolvers when carrying a body. Very important, not necessarily because we see this in the anime too much, but because as you play Cyberpunk, you will have missions where you have to transport bodies. That's going to be very important for you in order to help protect yourself. Now, meanwhile, we're going over to the right-hand side of Dog of War with 2 perk points. It increases your health regen in combat by 60%. It's going to really help you get that health back up to the top again to make you unstoppable in close combat. Marathoner is kind of a nice little quality of choice perk where your sprinting does not drain any stamina. You'll be sprinting around the battlefield quite quickly against your enemies, trying to run up and punching them in the face or blasting them with shotguns. So having that Marathoner perk is really going to help you out as well. Same thing with Cardio Cure. And since you're running around as fast as you can in order to engage your targets, your health regeneration regenerates 3% faster as you're moving about. So these kind of work in tandem together to help you with that health regen. So make David Martinez very tanky in this sense. And then finally we have our last 3 perks that we're going with. We have Enemies Cannot Knock You Down with the Rock. We have Steel Shell, which increases your armor by 10%, which is always a good thing. And then finally we have Indestructible at 1 perk point at body 20, reduces all incoming damage by 10%. And when we combine this with the Cata Resist that we get for our character, as well as some of the cool perks that we get for him, it's going to make him really tough. Now we're going to skip the level 20 athletic skill because that's not going to be really important to us, so we really don't care about that one. Now from there we'll go to the Street Brawler skill next. As you can see here, we've pretty much maximized the entirety of the Street Brawler skill tree. And the reason why is because David Martinez's primary combat focus is on punching, and he is a brawler build, so having this is going to really help him out as well. So obviously, of course, you want to start off with Flurry, getting 3 points in that because it increases your damage from your combo attacks with blunt weapons, which in this case are going to be your fists, increasing your damage by 50%, as well as putting 3 in crushing blow because having strong attacks, having increased at 30% will be very, very powerful as well. And like I said, so we're doing a lot of blocking with this character. Increasing your armor by 30% while blocking with your fists could be very, very important to keep you alive and also not getting hurt as well. Now, this is where the main starting tree will go when we get into our Act 1 levels. Now, from Act 2 onwards, we'll be branching out to either side of the tree, so let's go ahead and talk about the first ones we'll be getting there. So first off, we got Rush, which we're going to be spending 2 perk points in that. Successful attacks with blunt weapon will generate your health 5% over time. So because of that, like we said, over the next 2 seconds, putting that attacks on your opponents, getting that health bonus right back up for your character again, could be very, very important as well. Daze is also a really good perk too because, as it states, all attacks with blunt weapons have a 30% chance to apply stun. This is going to be good because it's going to take out your opponents and actually knock them on the ground where they won't be able to do anything. It's good for crowd control, so that way you can nail that character, stun them, move on to your next enemy, fight that character, and then you can come back to this dazed opponent and then finish him off. Which brings us to efficient blows. It says it reduces the stamina cost of all attacks with blunt weapons by 50%. You're going to be running around doing a lot of punching, so having that stamina is really going to help you out in order to stay alive, especially when you bring it to your opponents. From there, we'll go with Opportune Strike for just 1 perk point and increases the damage of your blunt weapons against enemies affected by stun by 50%. So, for example, if we knock out our opponents using our Daze ability and then knocking them down with their, while they're out, it's going to increase that damage, take out those opponents quickly, move you around even faster. Now from there we'll go to Human Fortress, which reduces the stamina cost of blocking attacks by 50% while using your blunt weapons, in this case your fists. So that's really going to help you out in order to actually reduce that damage you take back. And then with Payback, which is a really nice perk, it increases damage with blunt weapons by 3% for every 1% of your health missing. So the more damage you take, the more damage you'll be actually putting out. So that's really going to help you out. So if your damage is going down to a lower level, and you have this Payback perk, it's really going to help you to inflict more damage upon your opponents. And this is going to be really helpful, especially during the early builds where you don't have access to good armor or good cyberware. That's going to really help you out with your health. So that's going to be very, very important, especially during the parts of Act 1, maybe the middle of Act 2, up to that point. It's really going to help you out. Now from there, of course, we have Breathing Space. That's going to give you 12 body for that one. We're going to spend 2 perks in that. It says you increase your stamina regen while blocking with blunt weapons by 100%. Going to be definitely helping that because, like we said, stamina is going to be being used quite a bit with this build. And I'm going to go from there. We go to Reinvigorate. We're going to spend 3 perk points in that. Defending an enemy by performing a strong attack with a blunt weapon restores 30% stamina. So once again, not are you getting health from attacking your opponents, you're also regenerating stamina as well, which can be very important for you. Now from there we go to Relentless at level 12 for your body. We're taking 2 perk points for that. Successful attacks with blunt weapons against enemies affected by stun, restoring 30% stamina. So once again, doing that with this combination, you're going to be basically stacking up 60% stamina every single time you take out enemies using that perk. Now from there, towards the end of Act 2, towards the beginning of Act 3, this is where we get to our higher level perks. So nicely, the part on the left hand side, we got 2 for 15 points in body. We have Thrash for 2 perk points, strong attacks with blunt weapons, reduce your target's armor by 40% for 70 seconds, which would be really nice to get through those higher, tougher enemies, and Frenzy at level 2 by 15 body. Defeating an enemy increases damage with your blunt weapons by 60% for 5 seconds as well. So you'll be able to take out the lower level enemies first, use that in combination with Thrash for your higher enemies, be able to knock them down and beat them to death quite literally. And then from there we get Biding Time for 3 points. Every 5 seconds, blocking an attack with a blunt weapon restores 15% of your health. So that's going to really help you out in order to get that health regen. In combination with your guys' athletic skills, as well as some of the cyberware will give you, you're going to be pretty much unkillable in close combat. And then lastly, we'll do, of course, Unshakable, spending 3 perk points in that. Successful attacks with blunt weapons against enemies affected by stun restores 15% health as well as 15% stamina. Once again, adding on to that Biding Time, adding on to that Unshakable, that health regen is going to be very, very important to keep your character very much alive. And then lastly, of course, we are using Gorilla for this one. We're spending 1 perk point on that. Increases critical damage by 60% for 10 seconds after entering combat, and it will increase this for every perk level that you have. This is quite nice because it actually helps you out with those critical damages, and since you'll be welling on your opponents multiple times with multiple shots, it's really going to stack that ability to get those critical hits off, and it's really going to cause a lot of pain for your enemies as well. And lastly, we're going to talk about real quick is Annihilation inside the body perks. Now once again, David Martinez does use shotguns quite a bit in the anime, so this is what we're primarily focusing on for his character. We're mainly going for the damage done is what we're looking for here for damage output, so let's go and talk about exactly what that looks like. So we're going to do 3 perk points and hail of bullets. Shotguns and light machine gun deal 10% more damage. We're probably focusing more on shotguns rather than light machine guns in this build, so that's where we're really focusing on that one. Same thing with in your face, we're spending 2 perk points on that. It reduces the reload time for shotguns specifically by 30%, which is going to really help you run around and blast your opponents. You primarily will be using a smart shotgun in this situation, so having that additional reload time is going to make you extremely deadly. Now from there we have Dead Center. Dead Center costs you 7 body as well as 2 perk points, increases damage to the torsos from shotguns and light machine guns by 20%. So on top of that, we're already starting to build up 30% more damage just from using that alone. Same thing with Blood Rush. We got 2 perk points in that. Increases movement speed in combat by 10% while carrying a shotgun or a light machine gun. David is not only very strong, he's also incredibly fast, and not just from his reflex boosters either. We actually see him actually dodging more attacks and running around more than anything else, and this is going to actually help him out by increasing his damage even more with the shotguns that he's using against his opponents. Now from there we're going to body number 11, spending 3 points and momentum shift. Defeating an enemy using a shotgun or a light machine gun increases movement speed by 20% for 10 seconds. In this case, shotgun usage, so he's even faster. When combined with that movement speed and the damage he's actually causing at the same time, you'll be sprinting around the battlefield like the Doom guy and the Doom Slayer, blasting people's faces off with your shotgun. Which brings us to your next perk point, which is going to be heavy lead. It says shotguns and light machine guns knock back enemies with more force. Now this one's kind of neat and it's kind of interesting to see that activate later on, but the reason why we're using this is for popping off as well as for unstoppable. That's really going to help us out, as well as hit the deck. These are going to really synergize very well with those skills later on. From there we got Skeet Shooter. You deal 15% more damage to moving targets using shotguns or light machine guns, and since many enemies are moving around the battlefield trying to dodge you and not trying to get killed, this is going to really help you out do that. From there, we're going to jump over to Maniac for 1 point. When entering combat using a shotgun or light machine gun, your movement speed increases by 20% for 10 seconds. So once again, we're seeing these massive buffs to your movement as you're moving about. And when combined with your Sandevistan, you'll be sprinting around the battlefield blasting people, and you'll be looking like a meteor flying across the environment, just blasting your opponents. They'll be unable to stop you. Which brings us to Unstoppable, which is costing 1 point. Dismembering an enemy using a shotgun or light machine gun increases fire rate by 10% for 8 seconds. You can stack this up to 8 times. Unstoppable is going to be really nice, especially with your shotgun. If you're using a Crusher shotgun, for example, or if you're using the Smart shotgun, or any semi-automatic shotgun for that matter, it's really going to help you get that fire rate off. It's really going to allow you to hurt your opponents. Which brings us to Popping Off. We're going to spend 2 perk points on that. You have 50% higher chance of dismembering enemies, and that's going to be important because it's really causing a lot of damage, because it's going to bring us to the hit the deck ability. For 2 perk points, you increase the damage to staggered and knocked down enemies from shotguns and light machine guns by 20%. So you could just walk up to fools, blast them with a shotgun, throw them all over the battlefield, and continue on stacking that damage on top of them. Which is really going to bring us to probably our most powerful perks from there. First of all, Speed Demon. You deal more damage the faster you're moving, which combined with all the movement buffs you get from this tree, it's really going to make it dangerous. And to help you out with that, we have Biathlete for 1 perk point. Weapon spread from shotguns and light machine guns does not increase while moving, so you're running around the battlefield, sprinting around, using your abilities from your athletic skill tree to allow you to reload and to shoot while you're sprinting, dodging, and vaulting. You have all these movement perks helping you out to increase damage over time as well as your movement speed, and you'll be blitzing around the battlefield causing all kinds of problems for your enemy. So these are the perks that you guys can expect to see inside your body tree with Athletics, Street Brawler, as well as Annihilation. Alright, so let's talk about the rest of your perks that you guys have going on in this game. So first of all, when it comes to your reflex perks, we're actually not going to spend all that much time on reflex, just because David doesn't feel very comfortable using guns. Oddly enough. And the reason why is because of his post-traumatic stress that he actually has from watching his mother being killed in the anime series. So if you notice, we actually have no perks in assault, no perks in handguns, no perks in blades. And like we said, because he doesn't do any quick hacking either, we're going to skip breach protocol as well as quick hacking as well. Now, David Martinez is described as being very gifted and talented and very intelligent. Now, unfortunately, the intelligence stat only applies to hacking, but there is another skill tree that actually shows that creativity, shows that ability of intelligence, and that comes to our technical ability. So that's what we'll be talking about next. We'll talk about crafting as well as engineering. So first of all, let's go ahead and talk about crafting real fast. So So crafting actually is going to be a little bit more bare bones on this one because David is actually not actually a techie per se. He does use better equipment and better armor and better gear as he actually climbs the ranks of the mercenaries as an edgerunner throughout the Night City. So because of that, having that ability to get that better equipment is going to be really, really important to him. So in this case, as you can see, we're just focusing on a couple of things, which is the ability to actually craft. Now, as you can see here, as we go through, we're having the ability to actually do True Craftsman for 1 perk point, Grease Monkey for a perk point, as well as Edgerunner Artisan. So that way you can craft rare, epic, as well as legendary items. You're definitely going to want this progression because as you go through the game, you're going to want to upgrade your armor as well as the clothing that your character uses so that way they can stay alive and have that higher defense rating. Especially when we get to Edgerunner Artisan, because you having the ability to craft legendary items is really going to help out, especially when you craft heat sink mods for your Sandevistan reflex booster, and we'll talk about a little bit more about that when we actually get to the cyberware. Now from there, of course, we have 2 more perks. We're getting 200% efficiency as well as field technician. We're increasing both of those so that way you have 10% more armor that you craft as well as 10% more damage for the weapons you craft as well, so that way it makes it a little bit more deadly. And then for sapper, your grenades deal 20% more damage because explosives are really important, as we've seen in the anime series. Now from there, we're going to go to engineering, and engineering, of course, is quite bare bones in this situation, and the reason why is because, like I said, David is not much of a techie. He's not really using tech weapons per se, so because of that, having these lesser skills is going to be more about his grenades for the most part. Give you a little bit more damage output as time goes on. So first of all, we're going to get shrapnel, and shrapnel gives all grenade types deal 20 additional damage to their normal effects, makes your grenades very deadly. And we're going to spend 5 perk points and bigger booms. Your grenades deal 25% more damage with your grenades, so that's really going to help you out with those explosives that you use, take out enemies in mass. It's really going to help you out because aside from shotguns, the only ranged attack that you will have will be your grenades. And then insulation, of course, grants immunity to shock, and that's going to be really important because there's a lot of shock-based weapons that are available for your opponents. So these are the technical ability perks that we'll be using for this character. Now, the next thing we're going to talk real quick is cool. So your cool stat will be at level 12. So let's talk about exactly what you can see in that one. So let's start off with the ninjutsu skill tree. We're not using very many stealth-based perks for this character because David doesn't really sneak around too much. He's more about just getting in your face and getting it done. He'd rather just charge at you right to the front door instead of trying to sneak around. But there are some nice little quality of effects that can help you out in gameplay as well. First of all, we're going to pick out Crouching Tiger because it increases your movement speed while sneaking for 20%. David, when he first starts off, is kind of like a punk who has not much going for him. So in the early parts of the game, this is really going to help you out in order to sneak around and get things done. At the same time, to add to his fighting prowess, we're getting Hidden Dragon, which allows you to perform non-lethal aerial takedowns on unaware targets. And this is more for quality of life as well as for combat. You can initiate combat by charging at your opponent by jumping on top of them, smashing their head into the concrete, and then proceeding to beat everybody to death. Which leads us to our next perk, Assassin, at one point, as allows you to deal 15% more damage to human enemies. And since pretty much all your enemies are human, this is just a good all-around perk to have at all times. Now, we do have some perks with Ghost. Ghost will actually have your detection time increased to 40%, and oddly enough, it's kind of funny. You do want this perk because it'll help you out a little bit as you do stealth missions, and at the same time, your enemies will be unaware of you, so when you attack them, you'll actually cause some critical damage when you attack them if they're not aware about you. Which brings us to From the Shadows. Upon entering combat, critical chance increases by 20% for 7 seconds, so that means 1 every 5 blows is going to be able to get that critical attack on there, which can make it really nice, and that's the reason why we have that skill unlocked. Now from ninjutsu, we're going to go directly to Cold Blood, and Cold Blood is the next perk we'll be focusing on, and you're primarily using this primarily for its defensive abilities. So first of all, you will have Cold Blood. You're going to max it out with 3 stacks. After defeating an enemy, you gain Cold Blood for 7 seconds and increase your movement speed by 2%, stacks up to 3 times. The duration of each stack is 1 second shorter. So that's going to help you out. And the reason why we want this to get these 3 stacks is so for a couple of reasons. One, we want Will to Survive. Increases all resistances by 6% per attack of Cold Blood. This is going to help you survive whatever kind of elemental damage you might be taking, whether it's poison, burn, bleed, or shock. Eventually, when you get to level 50 and you finally get all of your cyberware taken care of, you won't have to really worry about this too much, and you can respec later by spending these perks on something else if you want to. But for the early part of the game, going to be really important for you. Same thing with Coagulant. It says stacks of cold blood are removed one by one, not all at once, so that way you do have all these perks, and as it goes away, the more enemies you kill, the more stacks you get, and they'll, you know, keep those bonuses going for a longer time. So first of all, if we have Easy Out, which is 2 points, it says while cold blood is active, increases ranged weapon damage by 20% to enemies with an area of 5 meters. And since you're using shotguns primarily, that's really going to help you out because you can use that shotguns to defeat your opponents, or grenades, which is also going to be nice as well. But probably the best ones that you're going to want to use from this are actually Rapid Blood Flow, Predator, as well as Defensive Clotting. Defensive Clotting at level 2 increases your armor by 8% per stack of cold blood, which means 3 times 8, 24%. 24% boost in your armor rating cannot be understated. You increase your attack speed by 30% per stack of cold blood, which means 90% attack speed boost, which is since you're punching your opponents in the face. That's going to be really, really important for that one as well. And Rapid Blood Flow, increase health regeneration inside and outside of combat by 10% per stack of cold blood, which means you get a 30% boost to your guys' health regen, which is going to really help keep your character very tanky and very much alive as well. So these are the perks that we're going to get for your character for your Athletics, Street Brawler, Annihilation, as well as Engineering, Crafting, Ninjutsu, as well as Cold Blood. So now that we're done talking about your attributes as well as your perks, let's go ahead and talk about your cyberware. Alright, so now that we're done talking about your attributes and your perks, let's talk about your cyberware real fast. So as you can see here, our boy David is going to be fully borked out with all of his slots taken over. And since our character is basically going through cyberpsychosis in the anime, this pretty much works out for the best. So let's talk about the operating system he's going with. So he's not going to be doing quick hacking because just like the anime, our boy is going to be using a Sandivistan for his reflex booster. In this case, we're using the Chiant, I believe is how you pronounce that, the Chiant Sandivistan Mark IV. You can get this from Fingers, which is the Ripper dock that's found in Japantown. And I will warn you, the biggest challenge with this character build is not punching Fingers in the face, especially when you're dealing with Judy's questline with Fingers. He's a horrible, horrible person. But anyway, so continue on. So it's going to slow down time to 25% for 12 seconds. The cooldown is 15 seconds. And that's the reason why we're using this one as well, because of that 15-second cooldown. In the anime, it looks like that David pretty much just instantaneously has his Sandivistan triggering all the time. And we're actually going to bring that down even further with some of the things we're going to do for this character. Now, at the same time that time dilation is occurring, he increases any damage dealt to 15% and increases his critical chance by 15% when it's active. And combined with all the other perks we have for fast movement, fast attack speeds, you're going to be just damaging people left and right and causing all kinds of problems. Now, when you get this Chiant Sandivistan Mark IV, you're going to actually put 3 mod slots on it. The 3 mod slots you're going to put on it are Heat Sink, legendary Heat Sinks. And Heat Sinks, what it does, it actually reduces the time it takes for your Sandivistan to cool down. So you're actually going to go and actually purchase that mod, and using your legendary ability to create legendary items, you'll craft all 3 of those and combine that with your biomonitor. We're going to sorry, biomonitor with your bioconductor here. It's going to make it almost instantaneous where you can just keep on triggering this event over and over again. If you do have to cool down, we do have some nervous system boosts to help you out with that. So because that's going to make it really, really powerful. So continuing on, so let's talk about your ocular system. You're going to get the maxed out corrosion optics Mark IV, and you're going to get the 3 mods for that. You're going to get threat detector, which is going to highlight enemies who detect you. So it's going to act like the ping quick hack, but you don't have to actually worry about getting that quick hack because you have that. You have the weak spot detection lens, which is going to give you plus 2% to getting critical chances, just to increase it slightly so that we can cause more damage. And then finally, you're going to get the trajectory analysis. That's going to give you 25% more damage on headshots. So when you're punching your opponents, punch them in the face. It's going to really hurt them a lot. Now from there, we're going to go with your Gorilla Arms, of course. Obviously, the Gorilla Arms are going to be the cyberware you'll be using. It's also the main weapon you'll be using as well. You can get charged with fast attacks, dealing additional damage with each subsequent strike. When fully charged, use a strong attack to release the charge and deal an extremely powerful blow that will knock down enemies. And your Gorilla Arms will also provide a bonus of 6+ to your body attribute checks. So that's going to help you open up doors, rip off machine guns off turrets, all kinds of stuff. Now when it comes to this one, I suggest you get the legendary Animal Knuckles upgrade, so that we can cause substantial bleeding damage because David causes opponents to bleed. At the same time, I also suggest you get the Black Market Battery as well. It's going to give you 100% damage that you do with these green arms, making you even more deadly as well. And then finally, you're going to go with the Sensory Amplifier. You're going to go with the one that gives you plus 15% health, just to make your character a little bit more survivable. Now, for his hand upgrade, we're going to go with the legendary Smart Link, and the reason why is because we see David using Smart shotguns in the anime, so I suggest you do exactly the same thing. The Smart Shotgun is an extremely powerful weapon. It curves around cover, it curves around corners, it curves your enemies upside down and kills them pretty straight up. So I suggest you go with that. Plus, it also increases chance to hit targets by 50% and critical damage by 20%. So it makes it very, very deadly. Now from there, for your legs, you're going to go with Reinforced Tendons because the ability to double jump cannot be understated how powerful that really is. Now, continuing on with our Cyberware, as you can see, we have a lot of legendaries going on for David. First of all, we have the Frontal Cortex. You're going to get the Heal on Kill legendary ability. It's going to allow you to restore 10% health after defending an enemy, so it's going to really help you bounce back from there. Metatronic Core is going to increase your damage to drones, mechs, and robots by 50% because who doesn't like one-shotting robots with your fists? And then finally, because we have one additional slot left over, we're going to go with the Visual Cortex Support, which is going to increase your critical damage by 6%. And the reason why we're just doing this is that you could actually skip it if you want to, but I mean, might as well get it. David's maxed out and Borged out anyways, so that just adds to your reflexibility. Now, like we said before, the Chiant Sandivistan is going to do most of the killing for you, but in case you got to wait for the Chiant to cool down, you can go with the Krinsakov. So we're going with the legendary Krinsakov with an epic level nano relay. What that's going to do is going to allow you to aim and shoot while sliding or dodging, slows time down by 90% for 3.5 seconds when blocking, aiming, or attacking during a slide or dodge. So that's really going to help you out. Cooldown's about 5 seconds for the Krinsakov. But with that nano relay, it's going to increase that duration by 2 seconds, which means you'll have 5.5 seconds for the Krinsakov, as well as 14 seconds for your Chiant Sandivistan Mark IV. So you'll primarily be living in slow motion the entire time whenever you're doing combat, especially when you combine it with those. Now, let's talk about your circulatory system. So first of all, you're going to get the legendary Biomonitor. It instantly restores 100% of your health where it drops down to 50%. The cooldown's 120 seconds on it. And you have Second Heart, which instantly restores 100% of your max health when your health falls onto 0. The max cooldown for that is 2 minutes. So you're going to be unstoppable. So if you accidentally get hit by an exploding gas tank or get taken out by your opponent, you basically got 2 chances of resurrection to come back to full health, and you'll be literally unstoppable. So, like I said, very, very beast mode. And then you finally have your Bioconductor. Reduces all Cyberware cooldowns by 30%. This will also include your Krinsakovs, as well as your Sandivistan, as well as your Biomonitor and your Second Heart. So because of that, it's going to make you very, very tanky. It's going to make you very, very fast, almost unstoppable. And since you'll be out of touch of reality so much doing all this, we can definitely see why cyberpsychosis was a thing for David Martinez. Now for our immune system, we're going with the Cataresist epic level because unfortunately we can't get the level 16 because of the way the perk points are allocated. That's going to increase all your resistances by 23% anyways, and when combined with your cold blood as well as your athletic skill trees, it's going to make you very, very resilient to your opponents, especially once you get your integumentary systems down for your skin. We'll talk about that in a second. You can also kick a Detoxifier, which means that you're going to be completely immune to poison. Which brings us to our integumentary systems. We have our subdermal armor to increase your armor by 300, and on top of all the armor you already have on you, making you very tanky. You have your fireproof coating, which is for a rare for body 12, it makes you immune to burn, and you have your supradermal weave, it's going to make you immune to bleeding, and when combined with your tech perk, it's going to make you immune to shock. So eventually, all those elemental effect weapons will not going to have anything to do to you. You're going to be perfectly fine. Your enemies got to rely upon kinetic-based damage in order to hurt you. And then finally for our skeleton, we have a legendary Synaptic Signal Optimizer, increasing your health by 60%. Cannot understate how important that is. And then finally we have legendary Micro Rotors, which increases your attack speed by 25%. And these are the cybernetic cyberware you're going to have for your character for the David Martinez build. Like I said, absolute beast, fully borged out, and you're pretty much going to be going to cyberpsychosis if they decide to bring that game mechanic into the game. Alright you guys, so that in conclusion, this is an extremely versatile build, an extremely fun build to play, especially if you want to go through your very first run through of Cyberpunk 2077. You have lots of speed, a lot of fighting ability, there's a vast variety of weapons you can actually use, and when you finally get your endgame build, you'll be able to beat your opponents to death with your bare fists or using shotguns to do it, which should bring you a lot of fun, especially since you'll be able to slow down time, speed around the battlefield, all kinds of cool things. Now the only thing you will not be able to do, of course, is quick hacking, but you know, quick hacking can be kind of boring, especially if that's the only thing you focus focus on, but this will be definitely a much more exciting way to do it, and you can live out your anime Edgerunner fantasies by playing David Martinez in Cyberpunk 2077. So once again, thank you to my viewers. I know this is a little bit of a different video. Actually, not a little bit of a different video. It's an extremely different video, and the reason why is because, like I said, I've been a huge fan of this Cyberpunk fandom, as well as the mythology and the lore and the story and its properties since the mid-90s. I've been loving Cyberpunk movies like the Matrix films, Johnny Mnemonic, which is kind of cool because it got Keanu Reeves to actually play Johnny Silverhand in the game, which is absolutely fantastic. So I've been a huge fan of that genre, and I really excited to see exactly what ends up happening. I'm super excited for the new expansion coming out. Hopefully they'll be able to give us abilities to level up even higher, so that way we can add more perk points, add more attribute points to our characters, or at least give us attribute shards, so that way we can increase our attributes. So like I said before, I'm really excited to see exactly what ends up happening in the future. And once again, I am a poor console player, so I'll be playing all my stuff on PS4. I do have a couple of builds that I have on my PS4 that I could probably show you gameplay footage of, so if I get around to doing that and learning how to do that aspect, I might be including that into my video. But here you guys go. This is the David Martinez build. That's good for those of you guys. As always, please feel free to comment, like, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is invaluable to us as always. Also check us out on Facebook, Instagram, as well as blogger.com to check out the latest greatest hobby news related to this channel. That's good for those of you guys. We'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out and stay classy.